Is the worst of the big four really that bad? Welcome to Runner Does Music, where today we're looking at the third studio album from the thrash metal band Slayer called Rain and Blood. This is most likely the album that everybody knows the band for, often credited alongside the likes of Among the Living, Peace Cells, and Master of Puppets as the most important albums for thrash metal and defining the sound of it. With this being the band's first super popular album, the two studio releases that preceded this were still met with decent response, albeit a lack of radio play. The question stands, of course, though, does Slayer really suck, or is this album a classic? Perhaps the most interesting thing to me on this release isn't the inherent heaviness that seemingly outdoes the other big contenders in metal at this time in the scene, but the lyrical content all throughout the album. There's so much to digest when it comes to subject matter, and I want to start with a song that holds a lot of controversy, Angel of Death. A lot of people, even to this day, listen to the song and immediately call the band Nazis for the use and references to Josef Mengele, a Nazi from World War II who conducted horrible experiments on Jewish prisoners in places such as Auschwitz. The song continually describes Josef and the awful things he did, such as literally burning away people's flesh and even supposedly sewing together a pair of twins. The reality of the situation is that Mengele is one of the most twisted people to exist, far from human, and while I hardly consider that the band endorses the actions of this vile person or his association, there is some merit to questioning the band's mental process going for the utterly descriptive effort here. It's well written in that sense, but as an opening track it's a real shocker. For the good of being an 80s thrash banger, and for the confusing bit of being one of the earlier glimpses of popular pre-mainstream metal having questionable topics at the forefront. On the intro track, as well as most of Rain and Blood, one member outdoes the rest in terms of performance and presence, and that is undoubtedly Dave Lombardo on the drum kit, with pulse-pounding work such as An Angel of Death, the ferocity within the less than 2-minute Necrophobic, or like I said, really anywhere on the album. Dave constantly pushes the envelope and had no weak moments whatsoever throughout the album's track list. While sort of a cop-out, my favorite track in terms of Dave's work has to be Rain and Blood, for its never-ending tempo and torrents of in-your-face percussion. Speaking of Rain and Blood, this is also a top track for Carrie and Dave, of course, given it's arguably the most recognizable song from the band. Something about that introductory set of notes just ignites something in your soul that can only be described as animalistic and making you ready to tear something apart. Even on the comparatively less enjoyable songs such as Jesus Saves in terms of guitar work, I still found plenty to finger tap the air to and pretend like I had any shot of playing along to. To say that this song isn't up there with the most impressive isn't damning at all, as the solo is sure to show you towards the end of the song. The ability to spread out unique riffs and guitar work throughout an album such as this, with tight song lengths in less than half an hour, is a sight to behold and an adventure to listen to. The only part of the Slayer puzzle that seems to draw more towards an iffy edge for me seems to be the vocal department, with Tom Araya sometimes delivering pure thrash goodness, with a tone befitting the genre, and other times seemingly calling it in with barely listenable vocals, which betray even the harsher edge of the genre at hand. Criminally Insane, for example, when coupled with only slightly impressive instrumental work, ends up sounding like a very basic song in comparison up until the solo, with the bare-bones barking vocals doing no favors. When I say the vocals here are 50-50, I really mean it too, because if you look just one track later, you get better delivery almost immediately, perhaps due in part to the faster pace of the vocals themselves. Tom is admittedly a hard listen for me, both critically and personally, but he does excel when he goes with a fast and abrasive approach, not allowing any room for breath or error in between lines. Rain and Blood is an album that a couple years ago I would have just dismissed as haha Slayer bad, but having sat with it critically, I can now say that it's not the worst thing in the world. It could be better on multiple fronts, mainly the vocals, but what early taste of metal couldn't be done better? For every impressive guitar solo, there are some repetitious lines and sections that do little more than just fill up space alongside the other instruments. While the bass can be heard pretty solidly, it also does little to enhance the experience, while, like I said before, Tom's vocals are only partially to thank for the quality overall. Really, it's the Dave Lombardo show from start to finish in the best ways. For these reasons, Rain and Blood by Slayer gets a 7.8 out of 10, and that's the review. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Sorry that I sound so violently sick during this video. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you're staying hydrated. I'll see you next time.
Other things, I just began to die.